I still remember that birthday dinner, as if the taste of red wine never left my tongue. The lights of the restaurant were dim candles flickering in crystal holders, and my mother raised her glass with a smile so sweet it turned bitter in the very next breath. Half of your $1 million condo should belong to your sister. Don't be selfish. The words cut through the hum of conversation. I tightened my grip on the folded deed hidden inside my jacket pocket. The paper felt heavier than iron. Around me, glasses clinked. Laughter bubbled. No one spoke up for me. No one defended me. At first came the shock, like a slap across the face in front of strangers. I tried to steady my breathing to look calm, but inside the ground had cracked open. I stared at the polished table, at the silver fork beside my untouched plate, and thought, so this is how they see me, not as family, not as a child, but as a bank. Then came the loneliness. A room full of relatives, yet I felt invisible. My mother leaned closer to my sister, whispering while my father poured more wine into his glass as if nothing had been said. The waiter passed behind me, his tray rattling, and I caught myself wishing he would knock everything over just to break the silence pressing against my ears. I forced myself into the third layer, pretend calm. I even smiled faintly when an uncle made a clumsy toast about health and prosperity. My lips moved, but I did not taste the words. I thought of the spare set of keys I had once given my mother, the ones that now felt like a mistake carved into metal. But underneath it all, buried, where they could not see, anger stirred. A slow burn like coal catching air. They had erased my name in front of everyone. They had decided that my years of work, my savings, my sleepless nights bent over spreadsheets and client calls meant nothing. The contradiction hung in the air. Family first, they always said, yet I was the sacrifice to prove it. I knew then something had shifted. And what they did not know was I would not remain silent. I would not let this insult pass like spilled wine wiped from the tablecloth. I'll explain in a moment, I whispered to myself, though no one heard. Tell me where you're watching from and hit subscribe. We need to talk about families and money. I should have known something was off when the doorman called me. Miss, your guest seems enthusiastic. I thanked him, pressed the elevator button, and watched my reflection warble in the chrome doors. In my tote, the spare key I had once handed, my mother clinked against the condo fob, a tiny reminder that kindness, when misfiled, becomes leverage. The doors opened to the 13th floor. I stepped out and heard it before I saw it, the candy-sweet voice pitched for an audience, words bouncing off the hallway like rubber balls. Moving into my new place, thanks, sis. Another voice, hers, laughed with the kind of confidence you only borrow. My front door stood wide open. The brass handle caught the afternoon light. The welcome mat I never cared for looked suddenly like a legal question. And there in the foyer were 2 rose gold suitcases standing like soldiers. My sister, dressed for the camera in a white sweater and ripped jeans, held her phone high tilted toward the skylight ring light, clipped on like a fake halo. Hi, family, she chirped to a swarm of strangers on her screen. New chapter. Big city. Generous sibling. Turn that off, I said. She glanced over the top edge of her phone, eyes, bright smile, already trained. Can't. We are live. I stepped around the suitcases and reached for the phone. The chat comments frothed in neon letters. Hearts streamed upward like confetti at a parade I had not agreed to throw. I saw my name first and last typed out, as if it belonged to anyone who could spell it. They asked for a tour. They posted clapping hands. Someone wrote rich siblings always gatekeeping, and the line sat there like a brand on my wrist. Who let you in? I asked, voice, steady hand still on the door. She tilted her head, faux innocent. Mom had a spare key. Family solution. And I already told the internet we're roommates. I walked to the kitchen island, set down my tote, and laid out the artifacts the way a lawyer arranges. Exhibits the condo bylaws booklet with its neat navy cover, the laminated copy of the no guest policy for extended stays, the mortgage binder with tabs, the small silver key I had loaned, and never seen again until this second. The afternoon sun slipped across the quartz, as if underlining everything. Roommates, I said. Did we sign a lease? I forgot. She ignored the question and panned her camera across my living room, the framed city map, the oak shelves, the linen sofa I had saved for through a string of double shifts and cold leftovers. The comments multiplied, manifesting a sister like this. Another blood over paperwork. I reached out and clicked the phone's power button. The live stream flattened to black. For a heartbeat, we stood in a silence so pure it rang. Rude, she said, snapping the phone back awake. Uninvited, I said. And then my own phone vibrated in my pocket. Family group chat. The banner of judgment unfurled line by line. Mom, be supportive. Family sacrifices. Dad, help your sister settle. It's only for a little while. Aunt Carol, so proud of two strong girls. Share your blessings. The words stacked like dishes no one intended to wash. I typed the simplest answer I could manage, number. The response arrived in a fusillade. Mom, we raised you to be generous. Sister from 3 feet away, thumbs flying. She's being dramatic, fam. I tucked my phone away and looked at the suitcases. One had a pink velvet bow tied to the handle, the other wore airline tags like medals. Where did you get the key? I asked, and when she smiled, I felt a cold line draw down my spine. Mom said it was safer if someone else had one, she said. Imagine if something happened to you and nobody could get in. Someone, I repeated. Not you. She rolled her eyes a practiced arc. You have space. I need a place to breathe. You are single. I am starting a brand. We both win. I walked to the door, picked up the suitcases by their handles, and felt the weight of clothes I had not bought. This is not a youth hostel, I said. This is my home. You are embarrassing me in front of my followers, she said. Also, the algorithm rewards big moments. If I leave now, it will kill the momentum. I am not an algorithm, I said. She finally dropped the performance like a coat sliding off her shoulders. Her voice lowered. You can afford this. You make more than all of us combined. You bought a $1 million condo. Congratulations. Be decent about it. There it was, the old math of our family. My years translated into her entitlement. My savings translated into everyone else's calendar of expectations. For a second, I saw my mother's hands measuring holidays on a planner, plugging me in like a utility. Decency, I said, is not the same as surrender. What is this even about? She asked. A guest room staying empty just to prove a point. People live together in this city. It's normal. Normal. The word landed with that familiar false warmth. I thought of nights spent at my desk hearing the radiator tick like a metronome, the overtime emails, the client calls running past dinner, the small miracle of opening the door to wattage. I paid for water. I heated quiet. I earned. Normal was an insult to each of those hours. Pack your phone, I said, and your clothes follow. She squared herself to me. I already shipped boxes. A mattress is coming tonight. I told the internet this is home. And I told the building there are rules, I said, tapping the bylaws booklet. No unapproved occupants. No filming without consent. No live streams in the hallways. That camera captures neighbors. There are fines. She smirked. Fines you can afford. My phone buzzed again. Mom, this time with a voice message. I didn't need to press play to hear the tone. Another ping, my cousin shared a link. Your sister is trending. I watched a video thumbnail of my own doorway, my own rug, my own hands, blurred in the corner as I tried to block the shot. The caption read, When your successful sibling finally does something right. The views spun upward by the thousands. Humiliation has a sound. It is the swallowed click when you refuse to give your pain a microphone. I drew a breath, counted to 5, and unclenched my jaw. I snapped a photo of the open door, the suitcases, the phone on a stand, evidence like breadcrumbs leading back to this moment. Time, date, location. The elevator log would show what the doorman had already told me. Here is what is going to happen, I said. You will collect your things. You will leave. I will change the locks. You would throw me out on the street, she said, widening her eyes for a camera that was no longer there. No, I said. I will return you to the street you came from, with the dignity of a rideshare and a receipt. Her phone buzzed and she looked down. The new comments must have told her something she liked. She lifted the camera again, angling for my face. Say hi, she said. Be the bigger person. I reached swift and calm and set the phone face down on the counter. The bigger person, I said, does not have to perform. For a long moment, neither of us moved. A siren stitched across the street. Sunlight shifted, making a window glare like an accusation. At last, she tugged one suitcase upright and clicked the handle out with too much force. This is not over, she said. Nothing ever is, I said. That is why people write contracts. She rolled the suitcases into the hall, the wheels rattling over the threshold strip. I shut the door gently and leaned my forehead against the cool wood until the latch's echo trailed away. My hands still shook. I let them. Then I laid out the pieces I had gathered, screenshots of the live stream, the chat where my mother ordered sacrifice the doorman's note in the building log. I slid each into a clear sleeve inside a black folder and labeled the tab in quiet print, unauthorized entry. But what they did not know was I had one more folder. It held a notarized affidavit about a spare key and a letter from the Condo Board Council outlining fines for unregistered occupants and commercial filming. The law may be slow, but paper is patient. Tell me where you are watching from and hit subscribe. We need to talk about the difference between kindness and consent. I thought closing the door that day would be the end of it, but in families like mine, nothing ends with a shut door. It only begins. At first, she tried charm. A text message with a string of heart emojis. A let's just talk voicemail. Then came the louder tactics. She brought her friends over when she knew I was working late. I came home one evening to find pizza boxes stacked on the counter, soda cans rolling across the hardwood I had paid to refinish. She sat there like a queen on my sofa, phone in hand, laughing at a video someone had tagged her in. You should be grateful, she said when I asked her to leave. I'm making this place alive. Alive. That was the word she chose, as if my years of work in silence had been some kind of death. The weeks that followed blurred into a cycle of intrusions. I would change the locks. She would show up with another spare grinning like a magician, revealing the same tired trick. My mother defended her at every turn. Family sacrifices Alex. That apartment is too big for one person. Don't be selfish. But what they did not know was I had been keeping records. Each intrusion, each expense, each text that dripped entitlement like a leaking faucet. I slipped them into a black binder labeled in silver pen, incidents. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. I opened my inbox after work and saw an old email thread resurrected from years ago. A credit card bill in my name, charges from boutiques and nightclubs I had never stepped foot in. $200,000 in debt I had cleared quietly once, long ago, just to stop the collectors from calling my phone. And there it was, forwarded by mistake from her account. My sister had sent it to a friend with laughing emojis. She'll cover it again if I push hard enough. Humiliation mixed with betrayal until it curdled into something harder. I printed the email, slid it into a clear sleeve, and added it to the binder. Evidence has no emotion. Paper does not tremble the way my hands did that night. The family dinners became interrogations. My mother asked in front of cousins and uncles why I hadn't stepped up to help more. You have a good job, she said, clinking her fork against her wine glass. Your sister needs support. We are doubling your monthly contribution to cover her expenses. I looked around the table at the eyes turned away, at the silence that thickened like gravy. No one said my name. No one asked me what I thought. I was the invisible provider, the ghost who paid the bills. I folded my napkin, placed it beside my untouched plate, and promised myself the next time they tried to corner me, I would not stay quiet. Tell me where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe, because the next part, that's when the dam broke. It was another dinner, another long table polished to a shine, another set of plates that clattered too loudly when placed in front of me, but this time I carried something heavier than appetite. I carried proof. My mother cleared her throat before dessert. She always chose her moments when glasses were full and everyone had loosened with wine. Alex, she said, voice firm, but smiling, your sister has been struggling. From now on, we're doubling your monthly contribution. It's only fair. Family supports family. Her words floated like confetti, light to her, heavy to me. I set my fork down. The silver tines glinted under the chandelier, a detail so sharp I still see it when I close my eyes. I let the silence stretch. I looked at the cousins who had already learned to avert their eyes, the uncles who pretended to check their watches, the aunt who dabbed her lips just to avoid speaking. My father swirled his glass, as if studying the color of the wine mattered more than the words hanging in the air. Finally, I reached into my bag. My fingers brushed the smooth folder spine, the one labeled in neat letters, transfers. I placed it on the table, slid a page free, and held it up between my fingers so the candlelight caught the watermark. $200,000, I said. Renovations, paid, by me, every cent. The numbers glowed black against white. Dates, account numbers, the unmistakable stamp of the bank. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Chairs shifted. A cousin coughed into his napkin. My mother's smile faltered, but only for a second. She leaned back, lips pursed. That was your choice, Alex. No one forced you. And then, as if rehearsed, my sister laughed, a soft, dismissive laugh like brushing dust from a sleeve. So, you still owe me. Blood is thicker than contracts. The words fell heavy. I watched them settle in the room, daring someone to object. No one did. Even the children, restless minutes before, had gone still, their eyes flicking from face to face, as if searching for an adult to break the spell. Inside me, the 4 layers of emotion returned in order. Shock first, how boldly she claimed my life's work. Then loneliness, as the faces around me stayed blank. Then the thin mask of composure, I smiled faint, as if this were merely a game. But beneath it all, fury simmered steady and hot. I thought of every night I had spent awake balancing accounts every morning. I had risen early to make the mortgage every sacrifice that built the very roof they now demanded to stand under. I looked at my sister. She was leaning back in her chair, nails painted, a sharp red phone buzzing in her palm. Probably recording, I thought. Probably waiting for me to snap so she could post it. I folded the paper carefully, slid it back into the folder, and met her eyes. Contracts, I said quietly, are thicker than blood. Because blood dries, paper lasts. Her smirk twitched just slightly. My mother shifted in her seat. My father finally set his glass down, the red liquid trembling near the rim. What they did not know was I had not brought just one folder. There was another waiting, thicker, heavier, filled with things none of them expected. But that, I told myself, would come later. Tell me where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. The next part is when the gloves come off. I had learned by then that silence is fuel. Every time I swallowed my words, they grew sharper. Every time I bit my tongue, the blade grew longer. By the end of that dinner, I had a sword. The next morning, I walked into a law office with my binder tucked under my arm. Marble floors, polished oak desk, the smell of paper and power. This was a place where silence became motion. I sat down with a lawyer whose eyes were steady and whose pen did not shake. I laid out the documents, the spare key logs, the unauthorized live streams, the old debts, with my name on them. Then I placed one final envelope on the desk, my grandmother's will. What do you want? The lawyer asked. Protection, I said, and permanence. Within weeks, the paperwork was filed. A quiet amendment to my grandmother's estate ensured her assets would flow where I directed, not into the open mouths of those who had mistaken me for a well. But revenge, if it is to be complete, must also be public. I did not leak the evidence myself. I am not that careless. Instead, it appeared as if by accident. Screenshots of my sister's shopping sprees bills, with my name listed as guarantor, text threads, where she bragged about draining me dry. These slipped into the current of the internet like stones tossed into a river. And the current carried them far. On Reddit, a thread titled "Sibling Freeloaders Expose" shot to the front page. TikTok filled with strangers acting out the dialogue. Blood is thicker than contracts. Cue laughter, cue outrage, cue hashtags. Twitter, or whatever they call it now, buzzed with indignation and jokes at her expense. Imagine live streaming yourself, moving into someone else's condo. Imagine thinking debt is a family heirloom. The comments multiplied faster than I could read. Some defended me, some condemned her. Most simply enjoyed the spectacle. That was fine. Public opinion is not a cure, but it is a mirror. And for once she was forced to see herself reflected not as a victim, but as the caricature she had become. My phone rang with fury. My mother's voice cracked through the line. You are ruining her life. No, I said calmly. She ruined it herself. I simply placed the mirror in front of her. At work, colleagues glanced at me differently, whispers traveling faster than greetings. Yet no one dared confront me. The story was too clear, too documented. I carried myself with a new quiet, the quiet of someone who has traded fear for evidence. But what they did not know was I still had more. An entire file yet unopened, a set of recordings no one had heard. I had not pressed play. Not yet. Tell me where you are watching from, and remember to subscribe. Because the next part, that is when the world learns what family really means. Revenge, once unleashed, has a rhythm of its own. It does not gallop. It spreads like ink seeping through paper. By the end of that week, the seep had reached every corner of her life. My sister's so-called brand partnerships evaporated overnight. Companies that once sent her free clothes and products to flaunt on camera sent curt emails terminating contracts. Her friends, those who used to fill my living room with laughter at midnight, stopped tagging her in posts. Some even joined the chorus of mockery. Screenshots of her begging for rent money went viral. A hashtag trailed her name like a shadow number freeloader queen. At a family dinner I did not attend, they whispered about her as though she were contagious. My phone buzzed with updates from distant cousins, screenshots of group chats where aunts who had once praised her creativity now used words like embarrassment and shame. Then came the call from my mother. Her voice was softer than I remembered, threaded with desperation. "She's young," she said. "Don't ruin her life." I stood at the window of my condo, looking down at the city lights, each one paid for by hours of my labor. I thought of the renovations, the bank transfers, the nights I ate cold takeout to afford what now surrounded me. "She ruined it herself," I said. There was silence on the line long enough for me to hear her breath hitch. "Family forgives," she tried again. "No," I said quietly. "Family should protect. You chose sides long ago." After that, her calls came less often. The cousins who once echoed her demands now kept their distance, unwilling to attach themselves to a sinking ship. My father never called at all. Perhaps he sat in his chair, glass of wine in hand, pretending the house was not crumbling around him. And my sister, she reached out once in a text that read, "Only you think you've won." I did not reply. But what they did not know was winning was never the point. It was freedom I sought, the kind you feel when the last chain breaks and the air around you is your own again. Tell me where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe, because the next part, that is where freedom begins to taste real. Freedom doesn't arrive with trumpets. It comes quietly in the turn of a key. The locksmith finished his work just after noon. The old brass cylinder, the one my mother had duplicated years ago, lay on the counter like a relic from a war I no longer wished to fight. In its place gleamed a new lock, untouched, unsullied by spare copies. I closed the door, twisted the knob, and heard the click echo through the condo like a final verdict. Then I blocked them all. My phone became lighter with each number removed, each thread silenced. No more family group chat pings, no more guilt disguised as advice, no more late-night demands disguised as emergencies. The device in my hand was for the first time mine alone. For days afterward, I noticed the absence. The quiet hummed differently. Morning stretched wide without interruption. I brewed coffee, opened the blinds, and let the sun fall across the hardwood I had paid to polish. Even the hum of the refrigerator felt like a companion, steady and reliable. Friends noticed the change. "You look rested," one said. "You sound lighter," another remarked. I laughed, realizing how heavy I must have been before. And yet habits linger. At night, I caught myself waiting for the buzz of accusation, the ding of demand. It never came. Instead, there was only the city below horns, footsteps, the low murmur of strangers living their own lives. For once, I was not a character in their story. I was my own. I thought about the years I had given away, the secret payments, the covered debts, the endless explanations. I thought of my grandmother, who had once told me, "Security is not selfishness, it is survival." Her words returned now like an inheritance of wisdom worth more than any estate. But what they did not know was I had invested quietly, steadily, not in their schemes, not in fleeting luxuries, but in myself. A portfolio built in the background, growing silently, while they wasted their time mocking the very work that funded it. One day soon the balance would tilt in ways none of them expected. I walked out onto the balcony that evening. The city stretched beneath me, lights flickering like a constellation drawn by human hands. The air was cool, and for the first time in years I inhaled without weight on my chest. Tell me where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. Because the last part, that is where the story closes, and freedom proves its worth. I sat on the balcony that night, a glass of water in my hand, the city humming below like a restless orchestra. Streetlights shimmered against wet pavement. Somewhere a siren wailed and faded. For the first time, none of it belonged to anyone but me. I thought back to the birthday dinner, the lifted glasses, my mother's voice cutting the air like a blade. "Half of your $1 million condo should belong to your sister." I remembered the weight of the deed in my pocket, the heat in my chest, the silence of the people who should have defended me. That night had felt like an ending, but sitting here now, I understood it was a beginning. The months that followed proved what I had always suspected: people reveal themselves most clearly when money enters the room. My sister revealed entitlement, my mother revealed allegiance, my father revealed absence. And I revealed endurance. Endurance has a cost, of course. Years shaved thin, trust worn down to a thread. But endurance also buys clarity. I no longer wondered what loyalty meant to them. I no longer waited for fairness to arrive like an overdue letter. The truth had been delivered, stamped and notarized by their own hands. Freedom is not loud. It is the taste of coffee sipped without interruption. It is the quiet of a phone that does not buzz with demands. It is the turn of a key no one else can duplicate. And it is the knowledge that the investments I made in silence, time, effort, savings are mine to guard, not theirs to drain. I leaned forward on the railing, watching headlights crawl like fireflies across the avenue. People below hurried to parties, dinners, arguments, reconciliations. They lived their lives. I lived mine. And for once the two did not collide. Better alone, I whispered, than chained by blood. It was not bitterness that shaped those words. It was relief. It was closure. If you think I made the right choice, comment right. If you have a better way, share your idea.